It's another Passover in paradise. Are you ready? Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Face to Face. Hey, Rabbi Litwak, how you doing? Oh, wait, I muted you. Sorry, now you're not muted anymore.
Rabbi David, how are you?
I'm good. I'm not good. I'm actually a mess. I had my second shot yesterday, and holy moly,
All right,
it's like last night was the worst night of my life. It was just awful.
Oh man.
They say that
let's not discuss that because I'm getting mine on Friday.
Well, no. So they say, what I understand is that if you had COVID, I had it over the summer. If you had COVID, then when they introduce this stuff into your body freaks out and starts attacking everything. So that's what's, I guess, hopefully. I saved all of my energy from the entire day for this moment.
Well, I am excited. As always, I'm excited to do another episode of Face to Face.
Yeah. So we're talking. Go ahead. Go for it.
We're talking about Pesach, right?
We're talking about Pesach. Yeah. What are your plans? Are you hosting
my
first
family's
night?
Coming in. All my family's going to be together, which will be very nice. And then second night, we got a few tricks up our sleeves. Cantor Norman and I. For a good second night online Seder experience.
Are you doing it? Is it via Zoom? Is that how you're going to be running it?
It is indeed via Zoom. Yeah. It'll be nice to be able to see people and people see us. And
absolutely. I should have brought it. I forgot to bring it. So I was struggling to find maror because I like the horseradish root. And I was struggling to find it, so I Instacarted this morning along with some other stuff that I needed. And I guess I didn't pay attention because I got, it's literally this. It's huge. It's ridiculous. I'm never going to use this much maror.
Well, if you cut it in half, I'll take half.
Oh, okay, perfect. All right, good. So you don't have to, you won't even need half. This is really, it's a little insane.
No, I think so.
So it's another Passover in paradise, and...
I'd like to contend with the idea of whether it's paradise or not.
Yeah, well, look, I said that tongue-in-cheek. I was watching an interview the other day with Dana Carvey. Dana Carvey, the comedian, he says fantastic. He has a new podcast called Fantastic. He says fantastic about everything, but he says it in a snarky way, so that's kind of what I meant here. Here's my struggle for this year. Not just for this year, for last year also. I think my struggle is that aside from Pesach being such an open door holiday, literally how we open our doors to family, to friends, to Eliyahu, to Elijah, aside from that piece, this idea that it's one of the 3 pilgrimage festivals, that on these days we're supposed to go out of our house, we're supposed to gather together and be with other people. How do we do that? How do we kind of get that vibe, that feel when we're stuck in still, in sort of a lockdown mode?
It's a great question, and knowing that we were going to talk about it, I really spent some time thinking about it. And I have to tell you, I did a little study with my colleagues here in Miami, so I'm sharing some words of Torah from them. I'll try and do B'Shem Omro, as we say in their name. But this one I forgot who said it, so I'm acknowledging it's not mine, but it's I forget who said it. That when we talk about Pesach and we say, "Let all those who are hungry come and eat," we know that it's hard when many of us are not yet vaccinated to invite people. But I think that this is not just an invitation to sit at our Seder table, right? That we say, Kol tichvin yeteh v'yechul, come, all who are hungry, come and eat. And then we recite halach ma'anya. This is the bread, this is the poor person's bread. And the Talmud tells us that poor, in this case, is poor in knowledge. Okay? That our slave ancestors, because they were slaves, didn't have time to study, didn't have time to learn and discuss, and that no matter where we are and no matter who we are with, even if we are by ourselves, right, that these two pieces of the Seder, these two steps of our Seder, are an invitation for those who are hungry for knowledge to enjoy some food for thought.
That's so
Right?
beautiful. I had never heard that.
And so yeah, we may not be able to gather. I love having a big Seder. I love
Yeah.
doing the community Seder where we've got 100 people, and I can bop around and talk to people. But it doesn't have to be that, right? And it can be something that is moving and spiritually nourishing as much as it is physically nourishing.
That's really beautiful. So, okay, so then the nourishment, aside from all of the food, the nourishment is spiritual, and for those of us who might be feeling poor of knowledge. So, what's a piece of knowledge that you are hoping to share this year?
Yeah, I have a number. I have a number that I'm really thinking about. I think about our colleague Rabbi Robin Fisher, who talks about our hands, that we wash our hands twice during the Seder, that our hands can be an agents of our own redemption. And given the year that we've had, that urchatz or rachatz, the two washing of the hands, have that additional meaning because we've been so hyper conscious, around washing our hands and not touching anything, in order to prevent the spread of corona, and that this washing of the hands can lift up and honor the power that our hands have, and can renew our own liberation story. Right? That God, it says that God revealed or redeemed the Israelites with, right, a strong hand,
Yeah.
right, and an outstretched arm, right, and washing our hands, we don't really even think about it, and yet this year we think about that,
Yeah.
and that renews the acknowledgement that we have power in our hands.
Wow, I love that. Can I just share with you, in the spirit of great questions and Pesach, I was teaching some of our JPEL kids, and shout out to Maddie, my boy Maddie, who I'm sure is not watching this, but Maddie asked a really, really good question about hand washing. I mean, everyone has always asked, why don't we use soap? And you have to talk about kind of spiritual cleanliness versus physical cleanliness, but he did something that I had actually never heard before, and he drew a distinction between the cleaning of our hands and the cleaning of our homes. And he said, isn't it ironic or isn't it strange that we use so much soap and cleanser and whatever when we're cleaning our homes for Passover, but when we're cleaning our hands for Passover, we don't? And I just left it. I didn't really have an answer for him, but it was a really wonderful question because I think it speaks to the power of our hands, as you were saying, that our hands are not just things in the world that need to be cleaned. They are powerful tools if they're used. They're sacred tools if they're used in the right way.
And therein is I think the answer to Maddie is that when we get to the Seder, right, we've already washed our hands. Right? We're coming to the Seder clean, and and that washing is an acknowledgement of the separation between what is the past and what is going to be the future. And I think that there's a lesson in and of itself as we move from a year where, like the Jews for the during the 10th plague, where this year or last year even, all right, we went into our homes, all right, and we embraced those closest to us. We were fearful, all right, that we didn't know God wasn't going to strike us down along with all of the Egyptians. All right, so we went into our homes, we embraced those closest to us, and yet now, right, so many of us have not had somebody close, and we've languished in loneliness and isolation. And now we're starting to just see the evidence of our possible freedom.
Yeah.
Right? That as vaccines are coming up and more people are getting, that there's this palpable sense. I'm not doing a public Seder, right? But next year in Jerusalem, last year, we thought, by the summer I'll be in Jerusalem. That was my plan, right? Well, for the first time in Israel's history, the state of Israel's history, right, the state of Israel was shut to the Jewish people. We couldn't go. Now, I think I can say next year in Jerusalem and feel pretty confident that it might not even be next year. It might be this year.
Yeah, and it'll be another year so. and 5 or 6 more elections over there.
Yeah. That's a whole other conversation.
It is a whole other conversation. Right. The hand washing thing is fascinating. So many things become rote, become even tefillah. If you think about prayer, I mean, we do the same prayers every day, and it's so easy for them to become rote and empty. And I think that hand washing has become that in some ways this past year. It's just become something that we probably should have been doing all along, but it's something now that, no one ever thinks deeply about hand washing anymore. And yet on Passover, like everything else Jewish, it's an opportunity for us to take something mundane and transform it into a holy act and transform it into something that really does have deep meaning.
Look at matzah, right? We don't think about matzah, right? We know that it's intimately connected with Pesach. You couldn't have Pesach without matzah. That seems strange, right? But this year it just feels different. That as my colleague Rabbi Gail Pomerantz talked about, that matzah is a symbol for those who made haste. They prepared hurriedly. They faced uncertainty. And last year, indeed, with Pesach being the first real holiday after we shut down, all right, we didn't really have time to prepare. There was no roadmap of our journey into COVID land. And we just went out into the wilderness. Right? Last year's Seder was that first foray. Now, all right, we have kind of figured it out. Right? Matzah, right? Interesting. Matzah has the unique, feature of being both a bread of affliction and a bread of freedom. Okay? It represents both sides of the Passover story. Okay? And so too, there are things that we learned about ourselves and how to experience Pesach in new ways during this pandemic that weren't totally bitter. Some of it was quite sweet.
Yeah.
Right? Some of it we didn't have to look at matzah and only see affliction. We could also see freedom.
Wow.
Right?
So, you're making me think so much of Passover is that not dichotomy, but that parallelism. You've got the green spring that you then dip in salt water. You've got the sweet wine that you then have to take out for the 10 plagues. And of course, the maror dipped into charoset, or chazeret dipped into charoset, and the matzah. I mean, it's the mar and the matok, right? That maybe that's kind of one of the big takeaways of how Pesach can inform us as we reflect on this pandemic and where we've been.
Yeah. Can we really think over a year and not just see slavery, right? Not just see this as a horrible year, but also a year where we've discovered things. I'll tell you what one of the things that I wrote is that the message of Pesach, we all say, is about freedom, but I think it's also about hope. Right? Over and over in the story of our Exodus, we faced what seemed like insurmountable challenges. And finding hope in those moments of challenge is not just a wish that everything is going to be okay, but finding the strength to endure the ups and the downs, the advances and the setbacks. Okay? And then we go on and we say Dayenu. Okay? Dayenu has gotten it's gotten reduced to a clever little ditty. Yeah. But I think that there is deep meaning in Dayenu. Dayenu, when we say Dayenu, it's a reminder that regardless of our situation, we have had not just enough to survive, but to thrive. The Dayenu proclaims that if God had only done a little bit for us, Dayenu, it would have been enough. Okay? And while we have been inconvenienced, okay, this year, okay, we have been annoyed, right? We have felt a little enslaved. We have not been slaves. Okay? Indeed, throughout history, Jews have said Dayenu in truly dark times and places, during pogroms and expulsions and in the Warsaw Ghetto. Okay? And so the hope with which we approach this holiday is that it is the knowledge that we do have enough. Okay? That even if we've experienced loss over the past year, maybe can we appreciate the gifts that we have been given during this pandemic, the bitter and the sweet.
Oh. Wow, that was a psh for you.
Yeah, I got that. I like that.
It's so hard to talk about that, to talk about finding the sweet in the midst of the bitter, because you never want to diminish the pain. You never want to diminish the hurt and the real toll that people have taken. And it's also so important. It's so important to be able to look back on challenges in our lives and, if not say, as Joseph would say, don't worry about it, guys. This is all part of God's plan, right? If we don't want to say that, at least to be able to say, what can I learn from this? How can I grow from this? And what can I be appreciative of from this time in my life, as painful as it has been?
For sure. If we think about the story of the Jewish people, if we think about the seminal moments in Jewish life, right, the big lesson, right, is not Abraham's story. It's a nice story, all right, and we get some good lessons out of it. Right? But what is the holiday that celebrates us as a Jewish people? It is, right, Pesach, a
Yeah.
reminder that we come out of slavery, and we say it every single day. Right? We don't dwell on it.
Right.
We don't live in a sense of servitude, right? But that acknowledgement that we were wandering Arameans, okay, our parents were wandering Arameans, okay, that we did come from slavery, that those things are there to teach us and help ground us.
Beautiful. Amen. What beautiful.
I'll
Go.
yeah. I was going to say I got one more thing that I've been thinking about, and this was by my colleague and our own Rabbi Efrat Zeren Zohar, who's a part of Temple Sinai, where she talks about Avadim Hayinu. We were slaves, and she talks about it as we were slaves to our own limits. The word Egypt in Hebrew is Mitzrayim. It means a very narrow, constricted, oppressive place. Egypt was a place where we couldn't do anything that we wanted to. All right, but Mitzrayim, Egypt, is not just a physical, historical place, but it is also simultaneously a metaphysical, a spiritual, and emotional place within our own hearts. Okay, and that we may not be physically enslaved, right? But we can enslave ourselves by thinking that we can't change. Right? We become stuck in our own Egypt. Right? And that this is a holiday, particularly this year, right, where we're not just celebrating something out of history about us being slaves, right, but rather, right, that this is a time when we are coming out of a time of constriction, right? A time when we were not able to do whatever we wanted to, right? But that is also thinking about it from our own personal sense. How have I enslaved myself? How have I constricted myself? And now, as I'm discovering freedom in a new way because I'm able to do things that I haven't done in a year, that maybe I need to think not just about woohoo, I can go out to a restaurant or I can see whoever I want to see, right? But how do I get out of my own slavery?
That's so
How
beautiful.
my limits, the limits that I've placed on my own self.
That's so beautiful. And you're making me think that's a big enough lift, right? To reflect on myself. But I also at this time of year, and particularly this year, I'm thinking about the ways in which I've participated in the enslavement of others. And I just wanted to share, sort of off topic, but there's an amazing series on Netflix right now called Amend, Amend. It's actually by Will Smith, and it's all about the 14th Amendment. And it's so beautifully done, and it talks about the enslavement, the subjugation of African Americans, of women, of LGBTQ. It's just a beautifully done piece, and I've been watching it, and it's been reminding me that that this year and every year, Ki'ilu hu yatzam mitzrayim, that Pesach is more than just remembering a story. It's about actually recognizing that I'm living it every day within myself, the ways in which I have enslaved myself or allowed myself to be enslaved, and also the ways in which I've participated in the enslavement of others. So
you are 100% correct, and I would just the same in the same coin, slightly different side, to say that the plagues that have been visited upon us, both Jews and non-Jews alike, we think about those people who have been excluded or made invisible or marginalized or oppressed, or who are destitute. And what is our responsibility to, as we say, as we started, sort of welcome them into our homes, welcome them into the home of society, so that everybody feels a part.
Okay, last thing. I've been repeating this to everyone. I listened to Rabbi Shai Held gave a pre-Passover shiur class the other night from Hadar. It was stunning, and
I wasn't. I was gonna. I really was gonna watch that, and then I was like, no, I can't. I'm away, and
so
now
it's
I'm,
on. It's
now
on.
I'm bummed.
It's on YouTube. You can watch it. It's
Okay,
it's
good.
really worth it. He talks a lot about Hagar. He spends a lot of time talking about Hagar and the relationship between the Hagar story and the Exodus from Egypt. But one of the takeaways is how Hagar is just not seen by Abraham and Sarah, by Avram and Sarai, that they never utter her name. God's the only one who utters her name, and they just don't even see her. And then when she names God, El Roi, you see me. Like, just that basic act of seeing people who, as people, I see you, is a first step toward, I think, maybe really embracing some of the lessons of Pesach. Rabbi, thank you so much. This was, God, I really, this was
I'm so glad.
This was
and
deeply
I really
sweet
feel
for me.
like I hope people are able to watch this and come into the Seder with just a different feeling, a different thought, some a sense of deeper meaning, so that, like the Talmud, we're not eating poor man's bread. We're not poor in knowledge and poor in our thoughts.
Right. Amen. Amen. So next week we will be off because of Pesach. I think
Indeed.
Thursday is Yontif, although I could be wrong. I'm not even. The only thing I've done for Pesach right now is gotten that horseradish root. That's the only thing I've done.
Well, I'm delighted. Thank you for helping out.
But so we will be off next week, but hopefully we'll see you all next week on Face to Face. Bye, Rabbi. See you later.
See ya.